they got hosed. They got hosed in several different ways. The PGA Tour made an example out of a couple of golfers that can't afford to fight back, and that is lame. What is up, everybody? How you living? No putts given. We're back. Tony, before we get started, I got to show you something. This is Zombie Golf. Japanese head cover. I guarantee someone's going to make an offer on this that I can't refuse.
Somebody just let Chris know why it should be yours, and
maybe it will be yours. There you go. Plenty of news going on in the golf world, but let's start with something that the PGA Tour has made sound more nefarious than I think it actually is. A couple golfers were suspended. Guys that had different levels of Korn Ferry Tour status last year. Jake Staiano, Vince India, suspended 3 months and 6 months.
That's a great name, isn't it?
Which one? Vince India?
Vince India.
I like it.
Action hero.
But, yes, action hero. As first reported, I believe it was Ryan French. We'll give credit where credit is due. Monday Q, if you don't follow him, please do. He has all the good, a lot of great information. But basically, here's what happened. So we're just going to talk about the Jake part of the situation because I don't know the details on the Vince part as well. But in 2021, Jake placed a couple of bets. We'll call it 4 because that's what it was. Totaling roughly $116 on
big money.
Big money.
Big money.
I know.
I just pulled up the article and I was looking at it and I was like, nope, that's a period, not a comma.
Yeah, exactly. 116 and 20 cents.
0.20, not
0.20.
comma, there's more.
In 2021, 3 of the bets placed on not actually a PGA Tour event. It was an exhibition match. It was the Brooks-Bryson 12-hole.
I thought you were going to say live anyway.
The Brooks-Bryson 12-hole extravaganza, I think. Maybe a $25 bet was placed on whatever. Long story short, did Jake break the rules? Yeah. And he acknowledges that. He's taken the high road on everything that I've heard. He's said, hey, my fault. I did that. Yep, you're absolutely right. But here's where the story gets interesting, I think. So they suspend him for 3 months. They suspend Vince India for 6 months.
Did Vince cross that $200 barrier?
He may have been up over 175.
Oh my God.
But what's going on in the next 3 months, or I think let's say it was September, October, November, I think were the 3 months of Jake's suspension once he was availed of that fact. That's Q school. For these guys that don't have confirmed status, it's a year suspension. It's not a 3-month suspension. It's like suspending a kid, for 5 days from school, but that happens to be the 5 days for tryouts or something. Then they can't make the team. They're not on the team. It's a year-long suspension is what it is in any other term. What do you think, Tony? Give me your response to this. What do you think?
The rules are the rules.
Yeah.
The timing is, so it's, and I don't know to what extent the tour and by trickle-down extension, the Korn Ferry Tour makes players aware if it's, one paragraph buried in a handbook somewhere, or if it's kind of an overt, like, hey, this.
I think they have to do like an integrity class. Like they know, the players know you can't gamble. Like that's not new information.
Like it's one of those things. It's like, yeah, all right, broke the rules. $116.20 isn't a lot of money, but again, the rules do not say, I'm sure, do not place bets above. Right, there are reasons for that. So the bet is the bet. The rules are the rules. But man, it does seem heavy-handed in the timing to sort of say, "Hey, we're gonna we're going to make sure you can't compete in Q school. Not, hey, all right, look, obviously you broke the rules. Wasn't egregious, right? $116. So maybe we'll defer this suspension.
Nefarious. It wasn't egregious. It wasn't.
Yeah, and the thing, like, I don't know if you caught Eamon Lynch's article, but
I skimmed it.
Kind of,
like I
it
did
is
all my
the whole
textbooks
thing
in
with
college.
the tour where they talk about wanting to be transparent, but kind of don't really. They're not talking. There's nothing more to say. We're not going to talk about how we became aware of it and all the things that kind of went into the decision. We're just going to say, we suspended these two small time guys, people you've never heard of, for gambling.
Right.
When we all, like, we're fully aware of the gambling, and Lynch mentions this as well, that goes on at the tour level, whether it's, obviously we know about Phil Mickelson, caddies, like, we know this is happening. Right. And so this is like, we're gonna come down on the little guys. And to me, it feels a bit like kind of the slow play penalty
at Augusta
all over again. We're like, oh yeah, no, we have.
Oh, you're 14 years old. We can make an example.
You are not a guy that people are turning on the television to watch play. So we feel comfortable giving you a slow penalty. Bryson, if he wants to take 45 minutes to hit a shot, that's, we'll just tolerate that because, whatever.
And so my final point on this is, the thing that I don't like about it. Okay, yes, you're right. Letter of the law, broke the rules, absolutely. Have no issue whatsoever with leagues have to do that, right? You can't have players gambling on the sport which they're playing, and you can, I get you got to have a zero tolerance because you can't say, oh, it's just not events you're playing in or whatever, and you start having all these caveats. I get it. I get why that exists. I also get the gray area of the PGA Tour being, in bed with DraftKings and all these other things, and I get that introduces gray area. Here's the biggest part about this that I don't like. Number one, what the PGA Tour is doing, in my opinion, yes, you're taking players that they feel they can make an example out of, and the easiest way to make an example out of somebody is by going to somebody who can't fight back. And if you look at the PGA Tour appeals process, and in this situation, basically what would happen is, there'd be roughly 3 arbitrators. And if you lose the arbitration, you have to cover the court fees for all 3 arbitrators. If you win, the PGA Tour covers those legal expenses. So you're taking somebody that doesn't have status, is fighting for status.
He did have enough to wager $116 and 20 whole 20 American cents.
And you're saying, hey, go ahead and gamble. I don't know. Let's call it $30,000. Why don't you just go ahead and gamble another $30,000 to see if you might be able to go through status, or do you take that $30,000 and try to play every Monday Q throughout the rest of the season, try to get into events that way? Because that's assuming you win. You don't have to pay again, I'm making up the number, but let's call it $30,000.
It's not cheap, whatever the number is.
It's a rank deal.
It's way more than $116.20.
It's a rank deal. I don't doubt at all that what Jake did, placed the bet by the letter of the law, that was wrong. Give him a fine.
Like I said, this seems to be the unofficial tour policy. Is certainly when there are punishments of this nature. It's,
right.
We're going to make sure that we make examples out of the guys farther down on the ladder, and we're certainly not going to. We're definitely not gonna rock the boat, especially when we're already struggling for TV ratings and things like that. So yeah.
But if I were Jake, and I'm not, I would have said, I will accept the suspension on one condition. You tell the entire world where Dustin Johnson actually went during his 6-month hiatus.
There you go.
You tell the world that, I'll accept my suspension. Step up, PGA Tour. Céline.
And not Dion.
And not Dion. Boutier.
Céline Boutier.
Rocking and rolling. There is still golf being played besides Q school type of things. She won in Malaysia at the Maybank. Pretty cool. I think best part of the story, 9-hole playoff. That's rare. A 9-hole playoff. Good for her.
I mean, it never comes into play, or almost never, but I miss the epic full 18-hole U.S. Open playoff. Like I love that.
For a guy that doesn't watch golf, I'm surprised that's the thing.
I know, right? You would think like that's what makes me watch. Give me 18 holes of anything on Monday that's real with something on the line. I don't care that you can't fill in around commercials and things like that, and there's not a lot going on. Again, golf is by and large background noise anyway, so I'm okay to do some work and check in when something's actually happening.
Hey,
so,
you peeked in Celine's bag. She is a PXG staffer. You have to look at the side of her hat to notice that.
Side hat staffer. Yeah, it's tough to compete with that ADP money.
ADP on the front, PXG on the side. Anything interesting you noticed?
Oh, so much. Well, first of all, this is crazy. So I would argue that Céline Boutier right now is the number one staffer under the PXG label. 4 wins this year. Incredible run that maybe you haven't noticed, but it's crazy. It's for a second there, I thought it was almost a game. Can I get one of every generation of PXG clubs in the bag? Starting to look at it. So, I mean, it's fun. So Gen 5 driver, Gen 6 hybrid, 19 and 22 degrees, Gen 5 hybrid in the 25 degree, which is a 5 hybrid, 5 iron replacement, which I love. That is awesome. Gen 4 T irons.
Let's get it.
Almost like the Wayback Machine here now. And then, Sugar Daddy, got to have the SD2s.
Yep.
50, 54, 58. So just a little bit of everything. And I think, one, it's refreshing in that it's very clear, obviously, that PXG has not said, no, we're on Gen 6. You're going to play Gen 6.
Right.
Period.
Right. End of story.
And so the other thing, too, it kind of hints at the idea that we talked about from time to time is that newer may not always be better. Newer is different, and newer often has enhancements, but there's no guarantees that whatever those enhancements may be, that it makes it better for you. Sort of.
Exactly.
A little bit of a mixed bag there.
Is better only if it's better for you. Those are good words.
Great. Gens 4 through 6 represented.
You got to like that. I mean, you think 3 generations in again, in dog years or in golf evolution years, that can easily be 5 to 6 years, right? If we talk
think in this case it really is just 3 years,
or 3, but
still,
Anyway, article last week. I was reading through it on our site. We wrote about Shoes, one of our another
Cajuce,
yes. Outdoor apparel brand that
my best friend Brooke works there, right?
Yeah. When's the last time you chatted with your best friend Brooke?
Well, she likes Connor better these days, as I touched on. I'm not super thrilled about that.
So it was something. So the pants, the article, it's interesting. You read it. The thing the question made me wonder whether these pants are $400. They're expensive. Why do golfers hate expensive things? Invariably, it does not matter. If we had an article on, I don't know, a melon. I don't have a melon hat here by me, but I don't know if they're $60 or something. People are going.
Where's melon hats?
Connor.
I'm fucking guy.
But why do Tony? Help me understand this. Why do golfers seem more than other industries and things? Why do they seem to hate expensive things?
Well, I mean, there is a certain amount of logic to it.
What's the logic?
We've all bought pants, right? All of us have bought pants at one time or another, and very, very few of us have spent $400 on pants.
Right.
And, not for anything, right? These aren't even the most expensive pair of pants in the Shoes lineup. I would,
nope.
You want to check out the Gemini pants sometime. That'll set you back an extra $100. I don't even know. Just looking at them now, I'm just telling you, you got $400 is not entry level is not the top of the pyramid at the Shoes.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's one of those things where I think if some people just don't want to spend the money, that makes them agitated that it exists. I mean, some more affordable options, but I will also tell you, as a guy who has over the years tried many, many brands of rain gear, And that's really what we're talking about with
Yeah.
the Breton pant is, rain pants that are regular pants kind of thing. And I can tell you there is a difference, and what you're getting for $100 in terms of things like breathability, its ability to actually keep you dry, which I feel like is a fundamental piece of the rain gear equation over a prolonged period of time. Like, hey, if you got a 15-minute shower, fine,
yeah.
go for it. But to understand that there is a difference, and to have, you're going to pay extra to stay dry for a prolonged period of time, to breathe well for a fabric that moves like your normal pants and isn't kind of rigid or, has a non-stretch or something like that. So, there is an element of you have to pay a little more to get everything you want, whether or not that is, whether it takes the full
Worth
400
to
get you there. Well, it is to me. I think, especially, but the other thing is I end up, whether I want to or not, I play in the rain several times a year.
Right.
And so, like, this is not, the Brenton pant, for example, is not something you're going to wear for a season, right? This is something you're going to keep for a while.
It's not a disposable item or something you're going to replace.
So that's my argument. All we can do is put it in front of you, I guess. But I'm not offended by it, but I'm also not offended by the fact that, there are some Audis that cost $100,000 for, I'm like, $100,000 for a Volkswagen? Ah! No, I don't care. Whatever. And somebody will point out, well, the engine and all this stuff that makes it better than a typical Volkswagen. I'll go, on scale, right? There's your Brenton pant. So
there you go. Knock yourself out. I had a chance last week. I toured the grounds of what will become, I'm calling it the next Bandon, as in Bandon Dunes, as in, I think this thing is going to be incredible, Tony. And what this is, so this is not too far from my hometown here in Fort Collins, Colorado. It's about.
I saw it when I first saw this. I was like, well, I guess I'm gonna have to go visit Chris at some point.
Yeah, this thing. So basically, what it's gonna be is, think for people that kind of know courses and stuff. Think Sand Hills, right? Nebraska. Think Sand Valley. Think Ballyneal, Dunes, in eastern Colorado. Western Nebraska. So we have these. The topography has this really cool wind-swept dunes with a lot of sand. So a very sandy base, and the same people that were responsible for starting Bandon Dunes. These are actually the sons now that are involved, the Kaisers, Chris and Mike, who have kind of taken lead direction on this particular institution. They are going to be set to open 2 courses. So 2 routings, and these are the 2 routings I have behind me here. One of them, you may have heard about this guy, Bill Korn Crenshaw.
I was just looking, I was like, because again, I knew this existed. I haven't dug into it too much yet, and then I drew it up and I pulled it up, saw Korn Crenshaw, and I'm like, all right, we're good.
And so the other initial routing, you may recognize the name as well, but a longtime staple member of Korn Crenshaw's design team, Jimmy Craig, is doing the other routing. And so these 2 are kind of being done in parallel. When we were out there, we got to speak with both Mr. Court and Mr. Craig. And they kind of told us that it's an evolutionary process. It's still going. I don't think you're going to see play on there, open to people as like a daily play type thing with the 2 courses. Probably looking 2025. I don't think it'll happen next year, but they're selling some foundation memberships. So if you want to be a founding member, those are some of those opportunities are out there. But man, if this thing does,
I'm laughing. So I'm looking. I got the website up, and I'm looking like direct flights to Denver versus direct flights to Coos Bay.
or Bend, Oregon, right? Like, good luck trying to get to Coos Bay or Bend, or, well, I guess another one of their properties, right, out there in Nova Scotia. Like, not super, with Cabot. Not super.
We gotta work out a Cabot trip. Like, just you and me.
We do need to do a Cabot trip.
Connor.
Just you and me. Nobody else. Not Connor. Just you and me.
Connor.
But they have. So here's another thing. So they got 2 routings. That'll start. They have 2,000 acres, which more or less will give you room for about 6 courses.
Okay.
However, they already leased or are in process of leasing an additional 2,000 acres. This thing could be massive. And if it, I mean, again, it's less than 40 minutes or whatever from DIA. So you have a major airport everybody can get to. It's kind of in the middle of the country. It's not on a coast, etc. This thing could be absolutely ridiculous.
I get it. I'm excited, but part of the charm of Bandon is that it's remote, that it is on the coast. I mean, the views there.
This feels remote.
Stunning.
I'm going to tell you, when you're in the middle of this land, which is, it feels pretty barren. You do not feel like you're in Colorado. You feel like you are in the middle of a prairie somewhere. And we'll see, how it goes from there. But I don't think you're going to struggle to feel isolated in eastern Colorado. Just, I don't know. Maybe not. We'll see. Let's talk some equipment stuff, Tony. I want to talk some equipment things and article that came out today. I think it came out today. Ball, sure. Wet versus dry.
No, yesterday.
Okay, thank you.
It's there. It's on the website.
That's why I asked.
Let's not split hairs.
Is why I asked. During our ginormous ball performance test, like we said, there's going to be, again, a ton of information that we drip out over time. This is a big chunk of it. So, Ball Lab, wet versus dry. What did we test? What did we do? Let's start with that.
So this was a test of opportunity. We had to shuffle some things around. We had some that freed up some time over with the Cool Clubs team, and we're like, well, let's do a larger wet versus dry test. We dabbled with it a couple of years ago, I think, during our first ball test out in Scottsdale. So we thought, well, we know, for example, that moisture does not impact every wedge the same. Right? We know some are better at shedding that water, performing similarly when they are wet to when they are dry. And we know from our preliminary stuff and some of the stuff that the guys at Ballnamic have done that there is also a difference in golf ball performance. So, simply put, not every cover is equal. Some do a better job at kind of shedding the moisture. And so we conceived of this really simple test where we hit a series of shots with each ball dry. And then much the same as we do in our wet wedge test, we gave it a spritz with the water bottle. And, remember this, Adam Rayberg from Bridgestone, very familiar, is
one of our
Bryson's official Bryson's official spritzer. We essentially turned Philip into the Adam Rayberg of mygolfspy ball testing. Should have tried to get Rayberg out. I mean, conflict of interest having a Bridgestone guy out there for the test, but I mean, no more experienced spritzer in the golf world. So maybe we should have thought about that. But we had Philip fill in, sprayed the balls as we went, and kind of let the numbers fall where they may.
Yeah. So basically, and some people might be confused about this. Yes, we did a separate test on wedges where we looked at what happens when you introduce water to a wedge, right? And that was our wet wedge test. This time, we introduced water to the ball, and the constant was the wedge. That wasn't the variable. So same wedge, introduce water to the ball because we want to see how these different urethane and some of the ionomer balls. We want to see,
and I gotta tell you too. So one of the big differences here is we did this test indoors. Because we're not really concerned with how aerodynamics impact ball flight. We're primarily looking at launch angle, spin rates, things like that. And yeah, we'll trust the extrapolation on a shorter shot here. But, and we publish those numbers, but it's not the focus.
Right.
And we had started to try and do this test with outside full flight. But what had happened was... one of the ionomer balls, we were... we're kind of just configuring, getting the robot ready, and we're flying through, no problem. We're like, all right, this is gonna work. Spritz one of the ionomer balls, launch angle increased so much so that it did not clear the indoor bay. We're like right into the issue. So we're like, all right, we're gonna need to set this up a little bit differently. So that was. That's kind of how we arrived at that decision. But it is fine again because mostly we're really looking at changes in launch angle and spin rate, and everything else is basically a byproduct of loss of friction.
So hit me with your top takeaways, keeping in mind a couple factors. One, we a lot of it's looking at consistency. So, we talk about spin retention. So the difference from a ball in dry conditions to a ball in those wet conditions. But also, when we talk about golf balls, more spin isn't always better. Less spin isn't always worse. However, excessive if we had to go one way or the other on that, you generally want a robust amount of spin with your golf ball, particularly on shorter shots, wedge and down. So for this kind of area, more spin is probably in general the better thing. But that I don't want people to think that that's universally true across the board, that more spin, oh, look how much this wedge spins. That's not necessarily
I would say like thing. Obviously, if you're going to compare wet and dry spin rates, you need to collect those dry spin rates. And you'll see, like it's not a perfect one for one, but there's at least a correlation with the 8-iron spin rates we published. So they're not wildly different. You do see some stuff move up and down and in and out of the top rankings, but that was capturing that dry spin was really secondary. What we were really looking at is the point of comparison and what type of percent change, if you will, from the wet dry condition. We really wanted to see which balls were most alike to dry performance. The performance was most alike dry and wet.
There you go. So
best way.
Give me your top takeaways. What in just that?
Yeah, we kept the top takeaways to 3.
Damn. So, okay.
Simple.
Top
First
3.
One. Water changes things.
Water changes things.
So and invariably, when you introduce water, you lose friction. That's essentially what happens. It reduces friction.
Driving
with that,
on wet.
Yeah, so you get kind of the ball has a tendency to slide up the face a little bit more, and so with that, when moisture is introduced, invariably you get 3 things. You get a drop in ball speed, sometimes massive, sometimes not. That was really interesting. You get higher launch, and you get lower spin.
So 2 downs and an up. Down ball speed,
invariably.
Down spin, up launch.
That's 1, 2. The cover matters. So it basically the rate was not consistent across every golf ball, and even not even really consistent necessarily for all balls from the same manufacturer. We see when the cover is the same, the differences tend to be very close, and it's likely the result of any differences are the result of a little bit of wiggle in the spritzing, right? That's imperfect. We did our best to be consistent, but we'll admit that is not perfect. We did really well. We have some outlier detection to clean up the mess, but that's not perfect. You have manufacturing tolerances. You have spin differences. So all of these things will affect that, but balls with the same cover tended to perform similarly, but you also see across the entire set of balls a wide swath of performance differences. And the last one we kind of threw this in because this is kind of fascinating, interesting, whatever you want to call it. And it's a sample size of 1, and so we need to do more research here. But yellow balls might perform differently because I am confident when I tell you that in wet conditions, the yellow Pro V1 performed differently than a white Pro V1.
Yeah, the information.
And so whether or not that translates to other lineups, that'd be fun. I think we'll play with that.
Yeah, the information is directional, not definitive, meaning, okay, maybe there's something here worth exploring a little bit more. Not saying that this is going to hold true at all times and in all tests and those kind of things, but enough to kind of pique our interest and say, maybe we should dig into this a little bit more. So we'll link that article, take a look.
The chart is, there's a lot there. So just be... make sure to read the instructions to know what you're looking at and your sorting options and things like that. Because
people don't read instructions.
I know we've put wet, dry, and percent difference numbers on the same chart, and you can sort by wet, you can sort by dry, you can sort by the difference. We've given you a ton of metrics to choose from. So if you want to, you can see the spin difference, the launch, the speed, the max height, the descent angle, the carry, and the total.
Everything you want.
Yeah, and those who want to keep it simple, we've given you a quick little table crosstab where you can also go metric by metric, because to lay all of those things out with the numerical difference and then the percent difference in a single table would have been
A lot.
or one view would have been a lot. So this is a case of pick the metric and then you can rank from there. So there you go.
Speaking of
Good
golfing
stuff.
balls, you are on an airplane shortly, headed to Frisco. That would be Texas, not San Fran Frisco,
San
as
Francisco.
we maybe thought. This is Callaway. Going to go check out some golfing ball things, from what I understand. What do you expect, or what are you hoping to hear?
Well, I don't think it's going to be golfing balls. I think this is going to be golfing putters based on
Perfect.
what's been teased. I think, though,
Okay,
I
then
may
what
have
are
an
you expecting to
opportunity.
hear?
If all goes well, I'll get an opportunity. I will get my first look at the new Chrome series, which finally includes balls not named Chrome Soft. And finally listening, mostly because they want me to shut up about making fun of a
Tell them to get in line.
yeah, right. They're not the only ones, but anyway, yeah.
So,
So
what are
we
you? I
might see
guess.
some golf balls, but I think it's going to be putters
Okay.
based on what we've seen from some tour leaks. Again,
Mhm.
Jonathan Wall over at golf.com,
AI
line
one.
of
We're seeing.
AI one putters. So I think
So
that's probably it.
yeah, basically what we saw was it looks like a milled version and maybe not a milled version, and there will be more details and stuff. Embargo, I think, is Wednesday evening, so by the time this airs, we
Seven
can't
in
tell
the
you
PM.
everything.
You're going to have to come
7 in the
back. Yeah,
PM, but
Eastern. Even though
AI.
I'll be not in Eastern.
Let's take
Not
let's
about
take
me.
a huge leap and say that AI still stands for artificial intelligence, and given Callaway's development and adherence to the AI tech story, let's assume they're using artificial intelligence. I don't think that's a huge leap here on a putter. What can a putter, in terms of artificial intelligence? I mean, like, we know with drivers, hey, here's what we would want a face of a driver to do, right? We want it to be faster, correct for this, correct for that. Okay. Well, as we know, putting is a slow science. You're hitting it, ball speeds maybe 4, 5, 6 miles an hour. What can you correct for
I
using
want
art?
faster ball speed off the putter.
Right. I don't think that's what it
I
is,
want.
right? I want this putter is 1.2 yards, longer than the previous putter, right?
I
So
mean, it's logically right. You got to think either some sort of MOI intelligence, but if it's face driven and based on some of the photos we've seen, it kind of looks like it's face driven, and you got to think it is. I don't want to say a copy of, but sort of that same even roll type story where you can maintain a consistent result. Consistent meaning both direction and ball speed, right? You don't want more ball speed with a putter, but if a ball rolls at 4 miles an hour when you hit it dead center on the face, it would be really nice if it also rolled at 4 miles an hour when you hit it on the toe. Except for
yeah,
those guys who intentionally like to clank it off the toe to reduce speed. But yeah, for me, it's like give me whatever the baseline is. Let's give it to me everywhere I hit it. That would be great.
yeah.
And then yeah, if you can, and I guess that's almost kind of an element of MOI when you really think about it, right? I mean, yeah, some of that's twisting, but also this idea of
Yeah,
protecting
torque.
ball speed on mishits. So
Yeah,
I
it's.
that's to me what makes sense, but who knows?
I think.
Could be
Yeah, I mean,
something too. Maybe a little sick face type thing is in
I
the. I don't know.
that's the thing is I'll be interested to see what that actually means. I mean, you have different models and shapes. I don't think just based on some of the images that we've seen, I don't think it's a story of different torque profiles and things that we've seen with like a lab putter, or we've seen from Adele at different times and things like that. I don't think it's that. So if it is really a kind of face type tech story, maybe I'm being too simplistic, but you're either trying to correct for speed or for direction. Like when I hit a putt, if it can go the exact speed that I want it to, and it goes the exact direction that I want it to, and or there's a way for a putter to help me correct those.
I want a face that allows me to decelerate because I got in my own head, chunk the putt a little bit, and still have it go where I need it to. That's the fix I need.
That'd be amazing. Well, You'll find out.
What do you,
You'll
can
let
you
us know.
AI around mental blocks? That's
Sure. Hey, maybe that.
This would be interesting. I mean, and again, knowing how pipelines work, this isn't really that yet, but we are now in the post Austie, post Sean Toulon,
post Toulon, post Rollinson. Yep.
Callaway. So this is a beginning of something somewhat different, probably.
Beginning of next, whatever that is. So interesting stuff. All right, buy or sell, Tony. Quick answers, quick things. It is speed golf time. Let's get fast. Here we go. Buy or sell. Live Golf, according to All Knowing Phil and some others, players are lining up at the door to join up with Live Golf. Do you buy or sell that?
I buy it, but players is a very non-specific kind of thing. These are very likely not the best players, probably not even the really good players. They are guys looking for an easy payday who really probably don't like their chances of competing week in and week out on tour. It's easy money. If you can get on Live, easy money.
If I change that to marquee players on the PGA Tour are lining up, sell that?
No, I don't buy it for a second. Right. Not even sure Liv's going to be around if the merger goes through. It's gonna,
who knows?
You don't need it. Saudi's got what they wanted.
Next topic. Whatever to is what I'm calling this topic. Should we eliminate from the industry the ability to call a subsequent product, any equipment, the previous year's product plus the number 2? So you can't have Nightmare on Elm Street and then Nightmare on Elm Street 2. Should we just get rid of that like as a new rule in the industry? You can't do it.
How about, I think it's probably a bad idea, and we're seeing there'll be examples of this come release season of companies bending over backwards to and using many words to avoid the word "to." I mean, how deep are we into the Titleist golf ball lineup, and we still have not had a Pro V2? Like, I feel like it might be time for a second version here. We can iterate. You guys have proven it, but no. For everybody but TaylorMade, 2 seems to be kind of third rail, almost toxic. Kind of does say, it suggests not a lot has changed by its very nature. So how about this as a rule? If you put something as 2, then you have to carry on, and the next one has to be 3, and see how you do 3 deep with the same. So, yeah. I mean, hey, you can't ban it, but I don't think it's the best idea.
All right. New costs out there on a bunch of different golf courses. We saw this, the one that jumped out to me that, oh man, $900 to play TPC Sawgrass. You buying or selling that?
That's ridiculous. Sell hard. And here's why. I know we touched on it. Not easy to get to, but Bandon Dunes, it's like, I think roughly 300 around, but your afternoon replay rate is about $150. My math, and this is not always my strong suit because I don't have Excel in front of me to help, but my math says you can play 4 rounds at the Bandon Resort for the cost of 1 at Sawgrass. And other than, hey, it would be cool to play this hole because I've seen it on TV, I guarantee you there's way more to look at Bandon. So
yep, I'm selling it. I am absolutely selling it. If I'm going to pay $900 to play a course, it's going to be called Pine Valley. It's going to be called, like, it has to be.
It doesn't, no disrespect, because they're very nice courses. You play at one, but there is no 900 course in my mind where the first 3 letters are TPC.
Yeah. I mean, like, at that price point, to me, it's got to be iconic, bucket list.
Hole. You're paying $750 for 1 hole and $150 for the rest.
Memorable. You get a tattoo of it. Like, if you're going to pay it much, that's what you need to. All right. Ghost Golf, I saw this out there. I don't know why I threw this one. They have like that little magnetic towel. Buy or sell magnetic towels?
Oh, this one's hard for me because I don't, I walk, and I suppose I could mount a magnet to my push cart, and I do have a motorized cart that has a magnet mount that I don't really use, but I would see this as useless, except my buddy Mike, who rides around in a little red cart like a bitch.
Hi, Mike.
has one of these magnetic towels, and he sticks it on the back where the bags go, and it's always like right there when he walks off to clean his clubs. So while I frown upon able-bodied men riding around in red carts, in terms of proving the utility of the magnetic golf towel, thanks, Mike.
Here's what I want. I want everything magnetized, because when I ride in a cart on my course, the more things that I can, stick to the cart. Like well, I mean, think about this. So like you can get your speaker mounted up there. You can get your range finder. You got a towel. Think about all the things that you could magnetize to a cart.
You could have
like a sandwich holder. You could have a cigar holder.
Oh, and you're going to forget all of it. So then you'll need to be like, somebody's going to have to invent this thing that you also attach to the cart. And when you press the button, it demagnetizes everything briefly. So all your shit falls down. So
they're called cart attendants. That's how you don't forget things. That's the invention.
How's that worked out for all of us?
Not great. Not great thus far. I think that could be fun, though. You could have a lot of things. And maybe my thinking's this. The more things I have stuck to the cart, then I just know, like if it's a 1, it's easy to forget. But if I know I have 312 things stuck to the cart.
I'll tell you, like, I don't know that we need everything stuck to the cart, but I've got a PXG putter in the bag, and Mike of Red Cart fame has PXG metalwoods, and he walks out, sticks the head cover to it. I have to throw mine somewhere, but the putter cover, I stick it to my irons. So go to the green, stick it right to the bag. It's there when I go back.
Love it.
Yeah, that's
I'm all about it.
There's utility.
More magnetized.
There's utility there.
That is plenty of information for the main show. The after show teaser, if you want to stick around, we're going to talk about what are we hoping to hear from the major manufacturers, because it's preview season. We're starting to see the new stuff. We're flying out places. We have our hopes and dreams in terms of what we're going to see or hear from these companies. So we're going to go into that next. If you don't want to listen, peace out. We'll see you later. If you do,
we'll be right back.
We'll be right back.
Testing sorted out real fast. Anyway.
Yep. All right, we are back. It is the after show, our hopes and dreams. Like I said, it's preview season, which for us in our world a little bit means that we're getting to see and start talking about some of the new gear for 2024. And it's actually kind of a perfect time to have this conversation, because we don't know any real details or specifics. Yes, we've heard names, and you can see the things on the forums, and people, some of the things are starting to leak out, and that's just fine. But in terms of like what it actually is or what it actually does, we don't know yet. And we certainly haven't seen it, hit it, touched it, felt it, those type of things. So let's go through, Tony. Let's start with the big boys. TaylorMade. Let's just start right
Stealth
there.
3.
What are you... If you committed to 2, you have to commit to 3. That's your rule. What are you hoping to hear from TaylorMade?
Jet Speed 2.0.
No.
It's time. It is time to bring it back.
No. What are you actually hoping to hear, Tony?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd like to see, how have we evolved the carbon face? Are we actually getting more out of it? I think my hunch is we're just going to continue to expand the forgiveness story, but we'll see. We'll see.
Iteration 1. Yeah, I mean, the very first time.
I'm actually much as the same in this. Yeah, this is for me the same story. I would tell you the same thing about Callaway when we get to that part, because they're looking at Paradigm 2, which is less exciting even than a Stealth 3 in my mind.
Potentially.
But for me, for both companies, it's a golf ball. Especially for TaylorMade, knowing that, hey, we are 3 years deep in a TP5 cycle for balls that...
Which is at least 1 year too long. Particular.
Yeah, and we know the new ball has been ready for a while. They're seeding them. They're sending them out. So... They're gonna be good to go on a new TP5 and TP5X. So
if that's
I'm looking to see, have we taken those two and pulled them a little farther apart from each other? Are the performance characteristics more clearly discernible? I would tell you, watching those balls fly at the ball test and seeing how they come back with the numbers, I think the arrow's a little wonky there as well. So if we tweak that to make better balls, but I've said it before, I believe it. There's so much potential with a 5-layer ball. I think they have the ability, or again, the potential to do things that the competitors can't. Intellectual property being what it is for right now.
Right.
So. Yeah, intriguing. I'm looking to see if they got the ball right, and it's tailor-made. The drivers are going to perform. Like it's not a mystery.
Right.
I am curious to see. Like we loved the fairway wood last year with the weight garage in it.
Yeah,
I want to see if are we continuing that? Was that one and done? Or are we evolving that technology? I'm curious there, but yeah, mostly with TaylorMade, it's the golf ball.
Yeah, I agree with you on the ball part. When you think about the face technology on carbon was the first year, right? It was like, hey, they didn't take too many chances in the sense like it was a uniform thickness, right? And then the second generation, they went with a variable thickness pattern to, right, again, change some of those characteristics across the face. So it's kind of like the first iteration was, I mean, holy cow, this is brand new. We don't have room for every story. This is a huge change. The biggest part is going to be it's carbon. Okay, next iteration is like it's carbon with a little bit more robust performance. And now what? Where do you evolve the story from there in a way that's compelling to golfers? Is it just more forgiveness, or is there something that's demonstrable?
Stealthier,
like, okay, stealthy-ishness, or I don't know.
Ear.
We'll see.
Bring back ear. Let's do that.
All right. Speaking of Callaway, because you said ball things there too.
Well, yeah.
What are you hoping to hear from Callaway? What are you hoping that they have to say?
So, I mean, obviously, right. If AI comes to putters, that's at least an interesting story. How that manifests itself in an ultimately better putter, I don't know. It's intriguing, but not the be all end all. We're entering what is year 2 of the paradigm cycle, paradigm 2.0. They're not going to call it that. They'll tap dance and do whatever they possibly can do to not say 2.
Right.
But it's paradigm 2.
Yeah.
This is the second iteration. They're not going to abandon that technology. So again,
no.
For me, it's the ball. We know that ChromeSoft X is going away as a name.
Right.
So
right.
Thank you. I've been asking for that for a while. So, you're still going to have that ball or the iteration thereof. It's just going to have a name that isn't misleading. So that's good. But for me, the big one is, what is the iteration of precision technology, right? That was the big talking point with the current generation. And really what it meant was layered concentricity, not really centered cores so much, because they stopped making 4-layer balls. So it was really just making sure that, the one core was in the middle, but in the middle because the mantle layers were concentric and the covers were concentric. So and they've done a good job with that. We cut them. We didn't find any issues there. So what is the iteration? What is the next part? What is precision technology 2.0? How else have you improved? Because on a comparative basis, I would tell you the compression range of a Callaway golf ball with the current generation is not as tight as it is with Titleist, for example. It's not even really close. Looking at kind of our metrics for quality, typically the standard deviations within the sample, it's not at that Titleist level yet based on what we measure. So can we get a step closer? Because we've already reached a point. And me as a big time at one point detractor of Callaway golf balls based on what we'd seen in testing, what we've seen in the labs. Like there was no way. Now I'm like, this is a ball you can play with confidence. How much better has it gotten? Have you taken another big step towards that sort of that pinnacle of quality, or are you still kind of messing around doing clever little marketing things and trying to make it feel good? So, that to me is that's what I'm watching with Callaway.
I'm going to be very interested too with Callaway, and I suppose this goes to TaylorMade as well. Does either brand do something that makes us stop and go, damn, that is something like it's been a while, and I get some of that.
Carbon was kind of damn, right? The carbon face were like
absolutely was,
and I don't think it has changed the world by any stretch of the imagination, but it was one of those things where you're like, stop right here. We're going to talk about this for a long time.
It was the best story. Yeah. So I guess maybe the question is, if that's the most recent best story, does Callaway punch back? Do they have something where they can... I don't know. Again, this is kind of the fun part of the pontification process because we really don't know yet. But you mentioned Titleist. What are you hoping to hear?
Yeah, I mean, we know, right? It's going to be... We know how calendars work. So we know at least one. We've got white box golf balls in testing, so we know that a new one's coming. Calendar says it's it is AVX season, but it could be left dash season as well, because that one's long in the tooth. We know there are some things we've touched on, opportunities for improvement, subtle things that it's not going to be longer. I don't think, because like that is the ball that if you put, say, I've understood the cover from the new Pro V1X, for example, on that ball, I've been told it won't pass. So you're right up against the distance limitation with left dash. So what else could you do? Opportunity certainly for a little more spin around the green. So that'd be my focus on that. So I'm interested to see what happens with that.
Yep.
Calendar says Vokey wedges. Whether that's calendar. SM10, SMX. I love, like an iPhone, right? We're not going to call it 10. We're just going to stick an X there. That would be intriguing. And for me, and I don't think they will, because WedgeWorks is kind of this own thing that they use to not only do some cool stuff, but refresh things, keep it interesting.
Yeah.
But man, as a guy now who devout summertime tee grind all day, I've found as we've moved into fall, things have gotten softer. It's raining right now. I really love that V grind, right? That essentially the higher bounce tee. Like why isn't that in the lineup?
Why isn't that just there every day for everybody?
We know this wedge is good. We know it has a purpose. Why are we going to wait a year into the cycle to make it available? So I would like to see that go away. But again, it's a marketing opportunity. It's a refresh opportunity. It's a sales opportunity. So I don't think it will. But I would love to see Vokey take an all grinds all the time mindset. Even if you don't have to put them on the store, but if you know about it, if you want it, you should be able to get the latest iteration. So that's my feeling.
All right. How about Ping?
But I don't know. Performance.
How about Ping? What are you hoping to hear from?
Well, we've seen some leaks. So there's pictures, right? We've seen.
We've seen plenty of pictures on the iron side.
We've seen a couple blueprint irons, so I think blueprint irons are coming. By the looks of it, I saw on a forum the other day, it looks like a new driver's in the works. So, which is interesting in that it's off cycle, and it's
because 430 came out last year, right? G430 was a last year thing, and phenomenal driver. Those things, the blueprint stuff we've seen, and it's been in players back. Sahith, I think Thagala, won with it, but you got the evolution of the blueprint space. What I would like to hear, what I'm hoping to hear from Ping is that, hey, we took this blueprint space and we're evolving it into the iron class of stuff that we feel will go toe-to-toe with these other high-performance irons for better players that still feel really, really good, right? We saw that was part of the story with Titleist, with the iron launch, right? With the new Hunters 150, this, a dedicated sense of, hey, we want to make these feel the way people want them to, right? Is that where Ping is going with the blueprint? Are they going to go? That's what I want to hear. I want to hear that Ping says, hey, this thing plays like a Ping, like it feels like a Mizuno. That's what I want to hear.
I don't think Ping will tell you it feels like a Mizuno.
That's what I want to hear. That was the question, is what do you want to hear? That's what I want to hear.
Yeah, that's going to be the whole presentation. Look, this is an i230, but it feels like a Mizuno. Done.
Be a hell of a campaign. I'm just saying. All right, last one.
Something feels like a Mizuno.
Nothing feels like
golf humor. Okay.
Cobra. Last of the big five.
I mean,
big 4.5 if you want to.
How do you follow up Aerojet?
With anything other than the name Aerojet. That's how you
I mean, it's one of these things where...
But what do you hope to hear? What do you hope to hear? So We hope that Callaway has more precision technology, or that it's compelling. We hope that TaylorMade isn't calling it Stealth 3, but that they do have a much better ball, right? We hope that Ping has irons that perform like Ping, feel like Mizuno. That's what I'm going with. But what do you actually hope?
Yeah, this
Cobra
one's. So I mentioned this. I leaned heavy on it. It was ultimately my call, but I gave our Editor's Choice Award for the year for the driver category to the Cobra Aerojet LS.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that driver was absolutely fantastic. We talk about low center of gravity, low spin, certainly not for everybody. But
sure.
If you're kind of loosely in that demographic, that driver was tremendous. And I saw on Foresight, on a GC quad, actual measured head speed, we don't, things don't change with the shape, things like that.
Right.
I was swinging that driver. I swung it faster than any other driver I tried this year. And I, rotating side by side, and I couldn't match it with anything else.
Aero.
Even with the same
It's an
shape.
aero story. Yeah.
And I have been largely dismissive of the aerodynamic story. I'm like, all right, yeah, some guys get a little bit. Most people.
Yeah, if you swing at 120, great, congratulations.
Yeah. And so for me, to go from 106 to 108 with most anything else to 112, 110 to 112 with LS, that's a couple miles an hour quantifiable speed. I'm like, that's interesting. And then being out on the golf course and hitting at places in a year where as we mentioned, I slacked instead of stacked for the most part, to still be able to hit at places I had never been. Now, that's not to say I hit every ball perfect. I can spray it with the best.
Oh no, when you've been places you've never been, that can mean
there's a directional compatibility.
There's things there.
I'm literally one pool farther down the right side of the road.
Different neighbor's backyard.
Yeah, never hit it in Steve's pool before.
Right. Sorry, Steve.
There is an element of that any club I pick up, but yeah, I thought that was longer. So I'm fascinated to see kind of what comes next. I'd like to see them ditch silly names and get serious about it. And I know I'm trying to convey speed. I don't think you need to anymore.
Yep.
And then other than that, you have other things in the Cobra lineup. We're 2 years into Forge Tech, the current one, which, as I've said, is the best fucking Cobra iron ever.
Yep, you said that, and that's a direct quote.
Are we iterating Forge Tech? So curious there. We know there's going to be game improvement iron, which I'm not going to get too excited about. But at the same time, I think Cobra overperforms in that space in terms of performance,
historically,
market share, and they're not in the consideration set as often as they deserve to be, and that's one area where the irons have traditionally been kind of sneaky good for that kind of player, and not for anything, right? We're going to bitch about $400 pants. Point out that Cobra game improvement irons tend to be a little less expensive than everybody else in that category too. So there's your value that offers plenty of performance. So I'd like to see that build as well.
Yeah. That was a lot. Here's what I'm hoping to hear summed up in that is that they have a Metalwood Tech story that is not replicated by or is clearly different from the others. Like I said, they leaned heavy into the Aero story, which is great, but it was a different story, and it wasn't the same type of story as the other companies. And I think that's part of the reason, and I agreed with your choice for as the editor's choice. I think that's part of the reason it was able to stand out and still did exceptionally well. And it did in testing. I mean, testing is whatever testing is, but it was fast. So I would like, and Cobra has kind of a history of this, of kind of providing a different answer that the other companies don't. Like, they're very, so I'm kind of waiting to hear what that is this time, because they tend to think of things maybe sometimes that other, or go about it a slightly different way. The
risk is though, right? We are cycles being what they are. Are we?
I know.
Are we just going to change the name and ultimately have Aerojet 2?
No.
So
maybe
it'd be interesting because they've had to be more innovative than others. We've talked about, like, again, LTD, going back to that as
right
a below the neutral axis center of gravity has certainly influenced a lot of designs that have, come since. So yeah, I mean, kind of innovative leaders, probably because they have to be.
Yeah.
Again, it's tough enough to be in the consideration set if you're
How are
Cobra.
you going to win? Yeah, how are you going to win?
So
So that's what we hope to hear. We will report back as we can, and I know it feels awful like a little bit of a tease at times, but again, this world of embargoes that we live under, where there's things you can all talk about once you hear about them, but we can't, because then we get yelled at, even though sometimes companies break their own embargoes and start talking about things, and then we still get yelled at. So it's like, whatever. We'll tell you.
Embargoes at noon. Pre-sale starts at 8 a.m.
Right. Exactly. Makes sense.
Just buy it. Don't think
Just
about
buy
it.
it. So we'll tell you as soon as we can. Tony's off on the road. We'll be back next week for sure. I hope everybody got a lot of Halloween candy. If you have questions, comments,
Are you here next week?
Oh yeah, maybe. What's
Don't
next
you have
week?
the Monday Night Foosball?
Oh, is that in a week? That's 2 weeks out.
All right,
That's it. We'll figure it out. Anyway, zombie, Tony, zombie. And until next time, we out.